Now listen, if there's one thing the Empire does right, it's creating massive warships and small moon-sized space stations. But we're here today to talk specifically about Super Star Destroyers, better classified as Star Dreadnoughts. So let's get into it. The Empire loves big bad capital ships, which is obvious when you look at the massive size of an Imperial-class Star Destroyer. These vessels brought enough of an image of Imperial might to completely quell system-wide uprisings or revolts. But ISDs could only go so far. What the Empire needed was vessels that could truly demonstrate the sheer scale of the Imperial military. For that, they would turn to the creation of Super Star Destroyers. While the title Super Star Destroyer is more of an umbrella term, it refers to the numerous classes of incredibly large vessels, the greatest of these being the Executor class Star Dreadnoughts, but we'll talk about those later on in this video. To begin our discussion, I want to talk about the Mandator class Dreadnought. Now this vessel was a part of the Imperial Navy Dreadnought family that included the Executor and Bellator classes. But don't worry, we'll get into those. But to first discuss the Mandator class Dreadnought. Now I gotta start by saying the canon doesn't really discuss this vessel in very much detail other than a mention by General Jan Dodana. However, Legends presents a different take on the Mandator class, referring to it as a Star Dreadnought with a length of 8,000 meters. What I find interesting is that rather than being an Imperial vessel, this warship was made by Kuat Drive Yards to be the centerpiece to the Kuat sector's defense fleet 2 decades prior to the Clone Wars, that is 42 BBY. Although regulations from the Ruusan Reformation limited the Mandator's class's speed and armament, it was still formidable, and it was the first starship to receive the designation of Dreadnought by the Anaxis War Collage. This vessel would have 7 in service by the time of the Clone Wars. However, its successor, the Mandator II class Star Dreadnought, would be introduced featuring heavier armor, stronger weaponry, and a more capable hyperdrive system. The first class of Mandator would have 3 models retrofitted for combat during this era of war. The Bellator class Dreadnought is our next vessel and thankfully has more history with the current canon, although not a lot. This Imperial Dreadnought was the first of Galactic Empire experimentation into creating larger models of battlecruisers. These experiments created limited models of both the Bellator class Dreadnought and the Executor class Star Dreadnought, although in limited numbers. The Bellator class was introduced between 19 BBY and 3 BBY. It was used to help bolster the Imperial Navy, and regardless of its limited number, the power of this vessel was felt. Not to mention that the Mandator class was also in service during this time. The larger sibling, the Executor class, would be under construction during the time of the Bellator, but would eventually be introduced sometime before 0 BBY. The Executor class Star Dreadnought, also known as the Command Dreadnought, was the second largest Imperial warship to ever be manufactured by Kuat Drive Yards. The lead ship of this class, aptly named the Executor, along with its sister ship, the Wrath, were introduced prior to the Battle of Yavin. During the Galactic Civil War, these vessels would lead their battle groups throughout the Mid-Rim and Outer Rim territories in hopes to extinguish the Rebel Alliance. To combat the Rebel threat and anyone willing to stand against the Empire were massive amounts of weapon emplacements. The Executor featured 40 quad heavy turbo laser batteries, 30 quad battleship ion cannon batteries, 10 twin heavy turbo laser batteries, 30 quad light turbo laser batteries, 20 twin battleship ion cannons, 20 medium ion cannons, 60 turret-mounted quad laser cannons, 90 concussion missile launchers, and 20 heavy tractor beam projectors. Within the many hangars, a complement of 120 starfighters of various TIE models, assault ships, gunboats, landing barges, shuttles, ground assault vehicles, and of course the AT series walkers. The Executor class Star Dreadnought was everything the Imperial Navy needed to launch a full-scale assault against an enemy. But what's even crazier is the final vessel on this list today. The Executor class Star Dreadnought is the Tarkin Doctrine manifested. It is the arrogant symbol of the Empire and their supposed crushing rule over the galaxy. This massive vessel measures in at 19,000 meters in length, propelled by 13 Executor 50.X engines, and crewed by 280,784 enlisted and officers alike, with the ability to hold 38,000 additional troops and support staff. I mean, maybe the Empire would have learned the problem of putting all their eggs in one basket after the destruction of the Death Star, but apparently they just doubled down on this ideology. The scale of this vessel is hard to fathom, even when compared to the already large Imperial Star Destroyers. But before we get dumbstruck by trying to imagine this vessel, we should discuss what its capabilities were and break down its armament and fighter complement. Now, according to Rebel intelligence, there are more than a dozen Executor-class Superstar Destroyers. Now, the numbers could be inflated, but we do know of a few. The most well-known is the Executor itself, the flagship of Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader. Next being the Eclipse, which is famously the flagship of the Emperor himself, Darth Sidious. Their sister ships being the Lusankya, Annihilator, Arbitrator, and the Ravager. The Executor-class Star Dreadnought possessed a Class 1 hyperdrive, making it relatively quicker than most freighters and frigates, although nothing compared to the modified hyperdrive on the Millennium Falcon, which is rated as a Class 0.5. It had a titanium reinforced hull made of alu-steel. This choice was made in part to reflect the design of the Imperial-class Star Destroyer, giving the Imperial Navy a uniformed look with its gray wedge-shaped capital ships. Executor Star Dreadnoughts could maintain a deployment for 6 years. That is, of course, withholding the possibility of damage, loss of personnel, or other problems that would force the vessel to return to a repair dock. Its long-range sensors and powerful communications towers made this vessel the ideal command ship for coordination of Imperial fleets. But what happens when the Executor needs to fight back or enact a base Delta Zero? For that, we need to look at the 5,000 turbo lasers of various type and model, including 750 twin heavy turbo laser batteries and 1,000 turret-mounted twin light turbo laser batteries. Additionally, it was equipped with 125 assault concussion missile launchers, 100 twin battleship ion cannons, and 250 turret-mounted quad laser cannons. While a single Imperial-class Star Destroyer is capable of destroying major population zones and a whole fleet capable of reducing a planet's surface to slag, the Executor-class Star Dreadnought was easily able to perform this order on its own, with 5,000 turbo lasers raining down Imperial justice on any rebelling systems. Now, a vessel of this size is going to have weak points in its defense, points that a starfighter might be able to take advantage of. Let's not point out the bridge. We all know that's the most glaring problem here. But to defend Executors is a complement of 1,000 starships. That includes 144 TIE series starfighters making up 12 squadrons of TIE fighters, interceptors, and bombers, as well as 200 assault shuttles, transport shuttles, support craft, and Y-85 Titan dropships. How about ground assault? For that, the Executor class housed 24 AT-ATs, 50 AT-STs, and 2 IM-455 modular garrisons. Rebel Alliance Command often struggled to find out the true number of Executor-class Star Dreadnoughts, considering all the propaganda and highly sensitive black budgets that contain Palpatine's secret weapons programs. Regardless, we do know the fates of a number of these ships. The New Republic was able to destroy 5 Super Star Destroyers, including the Arbitrator, which made an erroneous hyperspace jump into that of a black hole. However, they were successful in capturing 3 more. Grand General Tag's Annihilator was taken by pirates and renamed Liberty's Misrule. Grand Admiral Ray Sloane's flagship, the Ravager, would be destroyed by a New Republic Starhawk-class battleship, although Sloane would not be aboard. I think it's important to know that Starhawks utilized massive tractor beams, and during the Battle of Jakku, the Ravager would be pulled into the gravity well of Jakku using said tractor beam. Obviously, we know the fate of the Executor, which slammed into the surface of the Death Star too. One mysterious fate lies with the Eclipse, Emperor Palpatine's flagship. It was believed to have been destroyed by Admiral Akbar's flagship Home 1, however, we learned this to be false. Rather, the massive Superstar Destroyer fled to the unknown regions where it remained the command ship of the broken Imperial forces. Forces that, being led by Ray Sloan and other high-ranking officers, would begin construction on the First Order. Now, personally, I think these vessels are the perfect example of the bloated arrogance held by Imperial officers and the Emperor himself. It is not tactical, nor is it an efficient use of materials. Believe it or not, the Empire doesn't have the ability to make endless amounts of warships or superweapons. Even Grand Admiral Thrawn thought the proper use of Imperial resources should be spent on the more than capable Imperial-class Star Destroyers, the vastly superior TIE Defenders, and smaller support warships like the Arquitens-class Command Cruiser and Raider-class Corvette, which makes a lot of sense when you look at the size of the Empire and how stretched the Imperial Navy was to begin with. But, I ask you this, do you think the Executor holds a strong cool factor? Me personally, yes. It's very cool looking. Those shots of it in Empire Strikes Back are fantastic. I love the blood orange engines and the massive arrowhead design flanked by smaller ISDs. It's awesome. Now, of course, let me know your thoughts on the Executor class and all the other models I mentioned before. Which one's your favorite, and do you agree that the resources could have been used elsewhere? Don't forget to support the channel by subscribing and like this video if you enjoyed the topic. Have an incredible day wherever you are in the vast galaxy, and may the Force be with you always.